Talk about holding a grudge. If you thought 50 Cent's beef with the game was long, the feud between these two music icons seemed to have been going on probably since many of you were still in diapers. Inspiring one of the greatest mainstream diss tracks of all time, Eminem's lengthy feud with pop diva Mariah Carey was a moment for the books. Not only because Mimi had the guts to go against one of rap's golden boys, but because she'd been the only non-rapper to do so, and a woman at that. Inspiring a wave of follow-up diss hits between the two, fighting words were exchanged, voicemails leaked, and gasoline was poured over an already roaring fire, all thanks to a sour case of he said, she said, and a bruised ego. Obsessed isn't just the title of one of Mariah Carey's biggest hits, dedicated and inspired by her longtime stan, with the chocolate-covered peanuts as a stage name. It's also the adjective for everyone's interest in one of music's most extended feuds. Mariah Carey and Eminem are both icons in their own right, one establishing more number ones than any other solo act in history. But if it's one thing for sure, it's that neither MC nor Eminem will ever back down from a good old studio war. Especially Eminem, whom we know has had quite the track record with a long list of other celebs who wouldn't dare step in the hypothetical ring with the one and only Slim Shady. From nonsensical beef with an up-and-coming Christina Aguilera back in 2001, the same year he'd ignite beef with Mariah, to on-site promises with his own mother, as well as the mother of his daughter. Needless to say, anybody can get it. Back when Marshall Mathers was just on the come-up during the beginner's peak of his career, everybody wanted a taste of some of his famous mom's spaghetti, including Mariah Carey herself. After reaching out with hopes of sealing a collab for her 2001 album, Charm Bracelet, the two made plans to meet up to further discuss business, which they did, and well, that was that. At least, that's what we thought. During the midst of being out and about, talks of Mimi and M being more than just associates began to swirl around, which of course the media ate up without question. Rumors of celebrities dating each other, as we all know, isn't anything new, and for the most part, back in those days, both parties would keep it relatively hush until eventually the public caught on and realized that the two, or more, weren't an item. Not for Slim Shady, though. Known for not giving a shizfits, nor a half of one, to which he'd be often applauded for. Eminem took it upon himself to suggest that he and Mariah were secret lovers and were set to walk down the altar on any given day. On a more serious note, he later confided that he and she had actually been in a relationship and have been so for 6 or 7 months before calling it quits. Meeting up with someone less than 4 times and calling to discuss business matters wasn't what Mariah necessarily would call a relationship, according to Mariah herself, who denied the allegations time and time again. But man, oh man, was that a mistake. Even if it were possibly actually the truth. Music is what they did best, and in the studio was where Eminem set out to throw all of his feelings about Mariah's denial into. In true Shady form, M began to call out Mimi in his lyrics, the first reference stemming in 2002, when he name-dropped her not once, but twice. On his song Superman and When the Music Stops from his The Eminem Show album, he boldly raps, "What you trying to be, my new wife? What, you, Mariah? Fly through twice." Alluding to Mariah having flown out to see him and, "What the, you take me for, a joke? You smoking crack? For I do that, I'd beg Mariah to take me back." Following the release of the songs and album, this, of course, had the tabloids spinning and pens pinning like crazy. Eminem had confessed without being asked, probed, or questioned that he and one of the biggest artists of our time used to be a thing, confirming to Rolling Stone mag that exact truth further going on to say that he didn't exactly like Mariah as a person and that they didn't match well together. Once word got back to Mariah and her camp, they take heed right away, dropping a diss track on her Charm Bracelet album, Clown, which was said to have been a jab at M. In the song, Mariah exclaims, "You should have never imitated. We were lovers when you know very well we never even touched each other. I gotta break it to you delicately, dummy. Taking my G5 eternity minutes wasn't nothing, but I guess you wouldn't know. That's the way I roll." In other words, I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. She further went on to call him, who wasn't named, a clown and a puppet. During Charm Bracelet's promo tour, like you'd expect, Mariah was pummeled by all of the She and Slim Shady questions. For all the curious Georges in the back, front, and in between the cracks, Mariah doubled down on her denial of any canoodling between her and Eminem ever have taken place. Of course, the typical "have you ever dated Eminem" questions arose every time she sat down for an interview, to which she routinely denied time and time again. Further going on the Oprah Winfrey Show as well as Larry King's show, where they'd probe those same questions, prompting Mariah to pull from one of her most iconic memes and confess to the world, "I don't know him," or at least, "I don't know what he's talking about." Being the bigger person was what Mariah did next. If we were living in some other alt reality, but in this one, oh, Mariah was gonna get her lick back. During a performance of Clown, it didn't help that she had a dancer sport a blonde fade and a Detroit jersey, attempting to portray Slim Shady. Very much shady indeed. Time would pass and everyone assumed the antics were water under the bridge before M decided to turn things up a notch, being even more messy during one of his performances by playing a few voicemails loud and clear during mid-performance. Sounding similar to Mariah's own distinct voice, the voicemails asking, "Why won't you see me? Why won't you call me?" opened up an even bigger can of worms. But was it really Mariah behind the voice is the real question, to which Mimi claimed didn't belong to her. More time would pass with not much of a back and forth so-called feud happening, at least not on Mariah's end. Eminem, on the other hand, continued having Mariah's name in his mouth for years to come, name-dropping her in even more music, Jimmy Crack Corn. "Your mind's on us like mine's on Mariah, and y'all are just like her. Y'all all are liars." The Shade 45 radio show was where he'd set off next to name drop some more, telling the host as well as listeners that he and Mariah did in fact have a relationship, but that she was just too much of a diva for his liking. Long and behold, we're hit with the infamous Bagpipes from Baghdad, the straight shooter to the punch diss track he'd released, having absolutely no mercy on Mariah or her then husband, Nick the Fertilizer Cannon. In the song, M vulnerably asked whatever happened to him and his once upon a time girlfriend, and why they'd have to break up before flipping the switch and going straight for the kill. Nick took it upon himself to defend his then wife. His wife, on the other hand, was busy bridging together one of the most mainstream and downloaded diss tracks of all time, releasing her 2009 hit Obsessed, inspired by Eminem himself, although again, never name-dropped. It was obvious who Mariah was referring to thanks to its equally culturally relevant music video, which shows a stalker-like Stan, if you will, who eerily dresses and resembles Mr. Marshall Mathers himself, played by Mariah herself. Eminem couldn't help but to have heard the song and seen the video, since it was literally everywhere at one point. Furious at the blatant mockery of his own image and unprovoked confessions, Eminem came back with a vengeance, releasing The Warning, where he rapped about their relationship, doubling down on her having flown out to see him and even alleged that she was an alcoholic, going on to call her more vulgar expletives. A change of heart came in 2010 when M finally decided to bury the hatchet, or so we thought, telling Vibe magazine that he no longer wanted to discuss the Mariah situation, admitting that his song Bagpipes from Baghdad was a little harsh even for him. After Mariah split from Nick, and a whole half a decade later, Nick took it upon himself to take us right back to that time in music history, challenging M to a rap battle, which honestly M didn't pay much attention to. Just as people suspected, Eminem wasn't done with the situation, as per his own words, and he was right back at it like he never left. Although he did, and it's been a good 18 years by this point. Slim Shady was back again, with The Lord Above, a joint collab with rapper Fat Joe. What he had to say this time, you ask? I know me and Mariah didn't end on a high note, but that other dude's whipped. That got him neutered. Tried to tell him this chick's a nut job before he got his jewels clipped. Almost got my caboose kicked. Fool quit. You not gonna do. I let her chip my balls off too before I lose to you, Nick. Nick went on to respond, calling him a grandpa and some other insults sprinkled in there, but that's another time for another day. As far as Mariah goes, that situation was old news, and in her memoir, The Meaning of Mariah Carey, it was rumored that Eminem would be name-dropped in the book, to which she denied. When asked by Variety later on if he'd been name-dropped, Mariah stated that if anyone didn't pertain to the actual meaning of Mariah, that they wouldn't be in the book. Last year, to celebrate the anniversary of Obsessed, Mariah engaged in the Wipe Me Down TikTok challenge by dressing up as the great value Eminem, just for laughs. Old school Slim Shady would have taken that, flipped it, and done damage, but the more mature Shady didn't pay this any mind. Maybe he's finally laid this decades-old beef to rest? Or maybe we're just speaking entirely too soon, and a resurgence in their lengthy feud could be brewing, awaiting to unleash any day now. So, what is the truth? Do you think Marshall and Mariah were actually in a relationship? And how do you feel about their whole feud? Let us know your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments. And stay tuned for more true celebrity stories.